What is up, guys? Welcome back to part 12 of our WordPress tutorial for beginners. Today what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on security, and we're going to just do a really basic security setup for our WordPress. As you remember from earlier, we installed WordFence security, but we never configured it, and I also wanted to cover a couple of other security things that you want to do with your WordPress, at least just a really basic. I mean, like I said, this is just for beginners, so we're just going to cover the basics here. And I just made another short text list that I wanted to talk about and go over. We're not going to do all this stuff now, but I just wanted to at least bring it up because we're going to do it later. So the first thing is installing WordFence. This is pretty important because it is free, or the free version works really good on your site. And we're going to configure that actually a little bit. Maybe in this video, maybe in the next one. I'm not quite sure yet, but I at least wanted to cover some of this stuff. The next one would be setting up CloudFlare. And I don't know if you've ever heard of CloudFlare before, but something that's interesting about CloudFlare, or that makes it worth using, is first of all, they have a free plan. So when you create a CloudFlare account, what it does is it kind of helps protect your site from DDoS attacks and all kinds of things. Actually, it even lets you get SSL certificates to your site for no cost as well. This is an awesome service, and we're probably going to end up using it, and I'll show you how to configure it with our server that we're going to buy. We're actually going to end up buying just a basic HostGator account, and then we're going to upload our site to that, and then I'm probably going to show sending name servers directly without using CloudFlare, and then sending your name servers using CloudFlare. And there's a few advantages to using CloudFlare, primarily the main one being that, remember when I talked about also your sites not being paired together? Because one thing that you probably don't know is that if you have a server and you put all your sites on the same server, it's really easy for somebody to type one of your sites in a reverse lookup, and they can see all the sites you have paired together. And this is bad if you say you're building a bunch of sites for customers for a business, and you're charging them, like you're hosting for them and you're maintaining their sites and all that. That's really bad, because then somebody can look at all your sites that you've done, and they can easily pair together everybody that's your customers and all that. And I actually had this happen to me a long time ago, because I didn't even know about this when I was building customer websites. So that's pretty important. And another thing is, like I said, it's going to also help block bad bots and bad IPs. Cloudflare has a lot of that built into it, and if you've ever gone to a site, I just don't have an example right now, but if you've ever gone to a site and you've been hit with that little bouncing 3-dot ellipsis that says checking to make sure you're not a bot, and it has a 5-second countdown, that's a Cloudflare setup. Somebody set up through Cloudflare. So we're going to probably configure that in a future video. And then we have setting up HTTPS security key for your site. That's just when your site has HTTPS in the front, kind of like how you see it on Cloudflare right here. This secures your site and makes the information on it secure, just the person looking at it. This is pretty important when we're creating forms where somebody's going to email you, or they're going to send or input important information into your website. You really want to have this set up. And like I was saying, there's also, like I just said before about Cloudflare, actually we can do that through Cloudflare at no cost, or we can do it another way, which is setting it up through a service I like to use called Namecheap, which is where we're also going to get our domain from. So we could do those at the same time, or we could do it through Cloudflare. Both methods work, and I'll probably end up showing both those as well. The next thing you want to do on your WordPress is you want to limit the login attempts on your login page. This actually used to be its own thing separate from WordFence, but these days WordFence actually has it put in, so we're going to configure that inside WordFence, and that's going to allow us to limit the login. So if anybody's trying to brute force attack your login page, this will block them out. And I actually used to change my login page, believe it or not, because by default it's just your site /WP admin, and anybody can type that in and get to your login page. So I used to move it to something else, but these days that's, I guess, a lot of security plugins and things say don't do that because it messes with other parts of your installation. So I'm probably not going to show that in this. So here's something else I wanted to get to. 2 other things for your website. And I actually have an example of this first one, because the website for this channel is actually this one here, which is WordPress10orless.com. This is set up and currently on a server. And as you can see, it has just this weird text website that just says index of /. This is actually because the website has nothing on it. When you know how, like in your XAMPP installation, which we're in our XAMPP now on our C drive, we have that htdocs, and then in there we have that new site folder right here that has all our WordPress stuff in it. All right, well, on the server right now, the way this is set up, this folder that leads to the site is empty. So what it's showing is an index list. It's showing any files or any information that's in here because it has nothing to load. So we can actually look at the robots and all that inside the site because there's nothing in it. And this is actually a huge security vulnerability, and it's something that you should take care of. And WordPress actually does a good job of taking care of this on its own internally, but this is something that also you should add to your htaccess file, which will be located in your folder. I'm going to open it in just a second, and you want to put this in right here, not the these equal symbols. You're just going to want to put in this right here. So inside your folder, remember we were in xampp, htdocs, and then the site, you're going to have a htaccess file. And if it's not showing, sometimes it gets hidden and you can show hidden files, or I'm pretty sure it's in the view, yeah, hidden items. I don't think it's going to be hidden, but sometimes Windows is weird about it. So I'm going to edit it with Notepad++, which is what I'm using here. And this is a free program, by the way. And so in here it has all your WordPress rewrite rules. And I don't know if it's already in here. It could already be in here. I haven't actually opened this file since I installed anything. But I know that it's you want to hide your directory. So you could even put this just even down at the bottom in here. You could take this right here, option indexes. And actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and put it first thing. And then if we save that, that makes it so that this can never happen. So when somebody comes to this page or comes to a page that has nothing in it, like a inner folder or something, it will actually just show them an error that they are restricted, which I believe is a 403. It's going to tell them they're restricted and they're not allowed to see it. And that's better than them being able to just look at your open files and folders of your what's on your server. So that's pretty good there. So we're done with that. And then the next thing is a wp-config file, and we're going to disallow file editing. What this is doing is it's actually going to this section. If you remember under the appearance, we had a theme editor section, and if you go into that, it actually takes you to a file editor in the front end of your WordPress site where you can edit theme functions and all that kind of stuff, footers and headers and things like that. This is actually a security vulnerability as well. Primarily if somebody is able to hack your dashboard and then get to this section, they can change things in your site and have it do all kinds of malware type things. And so one thing we can do is we can actually disable this by adding this line here, or these two lines. This is just a comment, by the way. 2 forward slashes in PHP is just a comment. So this line is not read by the code reader, only this line is. So if we take both of these and we put them into our WP config, and where I found that was just in the core, just the root. So this is htdocs, this is all our stuff in our xampp, our new site, which is what we're working with, because that's what we're in the // folder working with. Then inside there, you're gonna, if you come into the main site, right where we saw the htaccess in the main folder, and you come down, you're gonna see WP config, not the sample config. And if you open that, you get this. And what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna scroll to the very bottom, and we're going to add a few lines, and then just paste that in and save it. And back in our theme, or I'm sorry, our WordPress installation, if we just click themes, you're going to see that the editor disappears. So now in order to edit the themes with the core code of a theme, somebody would actually have to have the physical access to the files on the server, which is much harder to get than just hacking into the WordPress itself. So we're going to leave this just like that to close out that security loophole, because chances are likely we're not going to ever use that theme editor anyway. I would usually do it through the files and folders anyway, and I would almost never do it through this interface because it's really hard to edit code through here. So one last thing here, just while we're on this, is in the dashboard, one thing that you can see here is updates. Since I last made a video, 5 updates have been kind of triggered for this WordPress, and if we take a look, they're exactly the kind of things I was telling you about. Security vulnerabilities also come from plugins that have been updated and themes that have been updated. Usually the updates are patches by the author of the theme or the plugin, patching issues, known issues, and holes. And they're not always security issues, but if you look at the release notes, a lot of times they are security issues that they've patched. So with these, all you want to do is mass click them and update them. So it'll take you to this little maintenance screen, and then it will successfully, and don't navigate away from this screen, because sometimes it can break your site and it can get stuck in maintenance mode, which you don't want that to happen. So just let it finish, and then make sure you see this where it says all updates have been completed, so it disables maintenance mode. And then the other three were just theme files, so we can update these as well. Now remember what I said though, had you edited any core code in these and you went to update like this, it would overwrite your core code you created, or your new code you created inside those themes. So that was just a simple rundown of some basic security stuff. Basically, you can add this to close this off so you don't have this issue, which by default WordPress does a pretty good job of that, but it's good to add it anyway as a backup. You're going to want to add this stuff to your config file if you want to get rid of the front end editor. And then another thing is WordFence, limiting logins. We're going to go over that in the next video. And then when we get our actual server set up, we're going to do these two things here. And that's a pretty good basic security setup for a WordPress site when most people don't even think of security when they do a WordPress site at all. So you're at least going that step one above the next person who's building sites. So another thing is too is if you're building this for a business, you can actually sell it as an additional security package, because a lot of people don't know how to do this, and a lot of people will opt for security. At least in my experience, they'll opt and say, yes, I do want that extra security and I will pay a little extra for it, because you at least brought it to their attention. So, all right, well, that's going to wrap us up for part 12. In the next part, we're just going to get into WordFence. I think the whole video is going to be about configuring WordFence properly to make sure that it's protecting your site the way you want. It's pretty easy to do, but we'll go through some of the specifics. Like before, like, subscribe, and comment if this is helpful. And if you want me to make a CloudFlare video, if you want to see that, or if you want to see maybe it's set up both ways, with or without, and then also setting up a key through CloudFlare, a HTTPS key, or doing it manually, both ways I can teach how to do. And both ways are pretty simple. So I look forward to seeing you guys in part 13.